Welcome to the C Note Show, gentlemen, with myself and Cynthia Cruz. We have over 50,000 hours of experience in this field, teaching psychology and specifically now in private practice for 7 years, going on 8 years in private practice, working with men that are facing the fear of divorce, men that want to know what the hell is going on. What the hell is going on with my wife? Why does she feel this way? What am I missing? What are my blind spots? And learning about my now self as a man to be self-reliant, no longer fall into those old nice guy habits of trying to appease her, of covert contracts. If I be a good boy, then I'll get love and sex and affection. And we know that doesn't work. And so what does work? This question of why does she want to hang out with the kids? Why does she want to hang out with the family, but not with me? And as a man, this is very confusing to us. She seems to want to be closer to us. She's smiling more, like this picture that I found this morning. She's smiling more, but yeah, she's not arm in arm with me. She's over there in between the kids, right? And in this picture, she happens to be looking away, but she's happy. She seems to be relaxed, and we have this time together. So I don't want to just say no to this time with the kids, right? But also it seems as though she's wanting to be close to me. She's inviting me into more things with the kids, and she's talking about going to Disneyland this summer. Why is that? What the heck is going on? So here on the C Note Show, we answer questions like this. And here are the top 3 questions I would be asking myself in this spot if I were you. This is what I'd recommend. If we were on a one-on-one call together, I would ask you these questions. We would dive deeply into them and what to do with the answers that come up in your mind or within your journaling. Just family time questions. What am I wanting that I feel only she can give me? What am I wanting that only she can give me that I feel like in this situation? Is something crossing a boundary here? Is something happening that I really need to speak up about? And is this in line with my values? Is doing family time like this in line with my values? Am I somehow outside of my integrity? These are questions that I would ask myself. We know that she wants sexual leadership, inspiration, and safety in relationship. And we want to learn how to love and lead with mojo like a king and avoid deep problems and mistakes. So Cynthia, let's start with you. We've talked about this a lot. This manifests in many different ways, where she wants to hang out with the kids, but not me. Why is she talking about family vacations or holidays coming up, but she doesn't want any intimate time with me? Maybe we're separated. And she often in this phase doesn't want me to initiate any kind of physicality or sexual intimacy. So what is it about hanging out with the kids that she's enjoying? And why am I as a man seeing this in a completely different way?
Yeah. And I mean, I can understand this is so confusing because her actions are doing one thing and then her words are doing another. And I think overall, when a woman's like wanting to hang out with the kids, wanting to hang out as a family, there is a level of safety she's really enjoying there. And there's a safe intimacy. She gets to feel like she's part of a tribe and her kids are part of the tribe. And she can really do that with you while also focusing her primary needs for connection and dynamics with her kids. So that's one level of intimacy and connection. The refusal to wanting to do anything physical, that's a much deeper, much more vulnerable, receptive kind of intimacy that she is in those moments saying no to. So it's a little bit like her, wanting to have her cake and eat it too. She only wants to be able to eat the icing of the experience, but not really open herself to the full cake.
The icing of the experience. I know Josh is facing something similar now. I want to call on you, Josh, to come in and tell us, what are you hearing and what are you experiencing right now in this time for you?
So right now we have 2 days a week where we have family dinners. And then some of the times she'll ask me to stay and watch television, and then she ends up cuddling with me. And that's pretty cool. But most of the time it's just we will eat dinner, talk for a little bit, and then either she'll leave when she's at my apartment. I guess she feels more safe at the house instead of my apartment because this is my place. So she usually just leaves my place sooner than if I were to go to my house. And she'd be like, oh, okay, you can stay longer. Like I'll leave at like 11 p.m. at night. Well, we have dinner at my place and she'll leave 8:30, something like that, to where we don't spend as much quality time. But it's not like she's not touching me or anything. She still touches me. She's giving me compliments, tells me I look good, tells me I smell good.
Yeah. So that makes absolute sense. Do you have a confusion about family time right now? I know we've been talking about this on and off for the past few months.
I know that in the female brain, it's two totally different things. That this is time for the family, and then there's time for us. And usually they both, like after the kids go to bed, then she'll be like, let's hang out. But it's only 2 days a week. Any more than that, she'll be like, let me come to you. Let me pursue you, Josh. Like I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So what question might you have at this exact moment about your situation with her?
I don't know. Yeah, sometimes I feel like she wants her cake and or wants the cake and she eats it too, like with the kids. Like in the beginning of the separation, me and her promised each other that we wouldn't keep ourselves from the kids. Like if it was my time and she wanted to visit, I'd be like, sure, as long as I didn't have anything planned and stuff. And I just feel like she's, I don't know, being taken advantage of, because I'm still doing a lot of husbandly duties, and I feel like she's not doing any wifely duties.
So yeah, yeah, thank you. That's a great place to start. And this is part of my question here. Is something crossing a boundary? Is this in line with my values? So for you, this feeling of being taken advantage of, how does that come about? How so? What's an example?
Well, like I take care of them like 80% of the time. Like they're only with her one weekend every 2 weeks. I watch them during the day and then they sleep at the house for maybe 3 or 4 days a week when it's not my turn to have them. So there be like 4-day periods where they're just always at my house. And I'm giving them 3 meals a day each day, and she maybe gives them 1 meal, because they'll be with her at dinner time when she gets off work during the week. So it feels like I'm putting more into it than she is.
And so let me ask about that. She works and you are on disability, right, Josh? So
yeah, I'm 100% disabled veteran.
Yeah. So is this any different than would have been? Are you watching the kids more than you would have otherwise?
No, but I was getting her to be with her, and now I'm not. So it's like, I don't know, it sounds kind of selfish, but in a way that was the family dynamic, and now we're in 2 different places. So she's getting the benefit of me being her husband without her having to put any effort in being my wife.
Sure, I hear what you're saying, but so let's call out, you were enjoying that you had a relationship with her and you were also being their father and watching them. And now you're being their father and watching them, which hasn't changed, but you don't also have the relationship involved. And so that's painful, is what I'm hearing. Yeah. So that in and of itself isn't necessarily a husbandly duty. That's you being a dad.
Sure.
Yeah. And so what else, what other husbandly duties might you say?
Just fixing stuff at the house.
Okay. What do you want from this time that the two of you are separated? How do you see this time?
I'm growing every day. I want to grow with her, obviously. I just don't want to feel like I'm not making progress towards the relationship eventually. It's still hard for me to wrap my mind around like the whole, the absence makes the heart grow fonder concept of like, I give you enough space and you just think about me all the time and then you want me back all of a sudden. Like, I think you need to be proactively like seeking that person out in order to build.
That's a good question. So thanks for getting us started, Josh. I'll press pause on you. So Let's just press pause, Josh. So with that, what he just said, what is it like for a woman in the spot, and why is it different than what Josh just said? Shouldn't we be seeking each other out? How is absence going to make this actually any better?
Yeah. And Josh, I was with you in every word that you were saying and the purpose. Like, shouldn't this be a like drive toward each other instead of, riding side by side? And I think your purpose in that is so solid. And I can see how if the feminine feels like you have a fear about absence and that you're kind of trying to overcome that fear through driving toward like this needs to be together. She can take that as a force that pushes her away because her whole limbic system will be like, he's afraid. I should be uncomfortable with this. I feel uncomfortable with this. And it will make her feel like there's not a lot of room to breathe and actually feel the magnetic pull toward you. And it might come across as a lot of pressure, not because your purpose and why isn't wonderful, but probably because she'll kind of pick up on some of the anxiety and the fear beneath that.
That's very well said. A piece of this is she's pushing y'all away. She's pushing us away as men because she wants us to kind of grow up. She wants us to not be reliant on her to feel good. And why doesn't a woman just say that?
Oh, that's such a great question. I think that goes a lot into just the chemical biology makeup of women and girls. The growing up modality, even the way they share facial expressions with each other, is a lot about, I'm going to model a certain way and you're going to like what it looks like. And so I'm going to get the message across to you. There's so many beneath the surface messaging that I think it's really hard for a woman to learn a more masculine way of being direct. And sometimes she fears that directness because for another woman, hurts another woman's feelings. She doesn't know that's possible. Or if a woman is super practiced in being direct, she's kind of gotten a masculine edge about it without a lot of sacredness. And so it can come out really harsh and demanding and very much unlike how I've seen really grounded masculinity can communicate with each other.
And I think she instinctually knows, like, that's very well said. I think she instinctually knows that if she's telling you how to be a man, that's going to turn her off. So she's trying to stay away from what's going to turn her off or disgust her. But then both of us stumble into that in relationship accidentally, right? Disillusionment with one another. And at this point, she's feeling like if she can survive without you, if there's nothing that she finds valuable that you bring to the table, and if she can survive without you, then this space for her proves that she doesn't need relationship. But she's really hoping and wanting, at least in her heart, for the women that we see, for the partners that men that come here have. Most women aren't doing this maliciously. Most women aren't like scheming and planning something in the way they ask for space. Most women are confused and they want to feel attraction again. They want to feel that there's the potential for that amazing life, but they know right now that you're so close together, there's not enough air to help the fire grow hot, that they're grasping for that air. Even if they could tell you XYZ, this is what's pissing me off. If she tells you what's turning her off, then you just do it, then you're doing it just because she told you. And why is that not good? Why is that a turnoff for women? What's underneath the hood there?
Yeah, I think that's another incredibly confusing element. I think a lot of women go in life thinking, if I just could say you should do something and you follow through, then everything will be perfect. And what it ends up doing is kind of crushing polarity and making it limp. And what it really does is kind of switches a power dynamic where she becomes kind of an over functioner. And then a woman in that role just can't help but get into more like mothering energy or, angry queen energy. And it's a limpness in her too, because it's not the blossoming and excitement and I feel like flow and de-stress from this experience that she thinks is going to bring.
Yeah, Josh, come on in. Thanks for raising your hand.
She has told me when we were having, I guess, deep talks that she doesn't say everything that's on her mind because she does not want to hurt my feelings or upset me, or so she just leaves it alone while she works on herself. And I find it funny, how is she working on herself by going out to dinners with friends and sleepovers with her girlfriends, like, because that's all she's been doing, or staying at a hotel and, renting out the suite and going in the jacuzzi, that sort of stuff. Like, is that self improvement stuff for women? I don't understand.
Well, I smile a little bit. Let's assume that that's all she's doing, healthy stuff with all that, right? Let's have high regard for her. So assuming that she's doing these things for herself, well, how much you answered Josh's question? Is that working on herself? How is that working on herself? What does that mean? And just be honest. Maybe you don't feel that is.
Josh, I totally understand why you look at that going, how is this working on yourself? Because you and I both know that working on ourselves is not just freedom and frolicking from responsibilities. What I would say she's trying to do there is because, and I think you've mentioned your wife, even said this, women come to a certain time in life of being a mom or being in a relationship, and they feel like they've lost a piece of themselves along the way because they are in flow. They do follow the riverbanks that you set. So I see that as an attempt to try to reclaim something that she's lost, a presence inside her own body that's not hyper aware of what everyone else needs around her. And I totally agree with you why it would be like, how is this work?
Yeah. So I'll add some icing on that, Josh. So if I'm you, being separated doesn't mean that there's no relationship, in my opinion.
Yeah.
In my opinion, if there's no relationship, then let's move forward as if there's no relationship. And often you may have to make that decision at some point.
I feel like there is for us.
Right. I would agree with you. It seems like there is more there. It seems like she is opening emotionally to you, and there is some kind of physical and emotional connection. So if I were you in that case, I would assume the best. I would assume high regard for her going and being
Of course.
Okay. So how might you ask her about that experience with high regard? So for instance, if I'm you, I might think, I might be in front of her and say, it must have been amazing and feel free to you to go be in that jacuzzi over Friday evening and not have any demands with the kids. And I appreciate that you're doing those things for yourself to feel more freedom and have time for yourself, I might say to her. And then I might ask, tell me more about that. Go ahead.
I think she's just working on self-love, because she once told me that, how can I love you if I don't love myself?
Sure. My point, though, is I want her to tell me. I want her to talk with me about it.
Okay. Well, on that particular occasion, she had called me on her drive back home because she went out of state for it. There's like this special riverbank and stuff like that where there's a sushi place, and she just went down there with one of her girlfriends, and they both were in separate rooms and stuff. And she called me and just told me all about it on the drive back. We talked for like 20 minutes, and I was just asking questions like,
Sure.
What did you do? What did you eat? How was the jacuzzi? Was it hot, right temperature? That sort of stuff.
Sure. So let me ask you, it's not a trick question, but it's a loaded question, right? I'm thinking of a particular kind of answer when I ask you this question. So, Don Juan or like Johnny Depp or George Clooney or some shit. It's that guy, it's like smooth and like that. Do you think he would ask her if the jacuzzi was the right temperature? And like, what do you think a Don Juan would ask? What does Don Juan want to know about her?
Were you naked?
Damn, Josh, that was good. I did not think that. That was good. Touche, my friend.
What kind of underwear did you wear?
Okay, that's getting better. I like where this is going, but what I was thinking is what's in her heart? Like, who is she on the inside? More than just, was sushi good? Did you have sake with it? It's more of, what is she discovering about herself? The whole point here is she's trying to discover more about herself, self-love. That's what she's saying. That's the narrative, right? So for me to see more than just skin deep, I want to ask her questions about her experience, about her heart, about her soul, with a bit more poetic language, a little more esoteric, not so literal. Right. So how did she feel an expansive nature in her heart? Did she look at the stars, and what did she feel do you see where I'm going here? It's more of what her experience was in her soul, not just the literal experience that she had. And I would want to ask those in person. Why in person? Why not over the phone? Why asking about her heart and her soul and not just the temperature of the and what color her panties were? Which is a good question. It's a good question. But why does a woman care about if I'm interested in more of her depth?
Yeah, I think it goes to the core of what she's seeking right now. And that's that the feeling of knowing her own self deeply. And I think a lot of women talk about trying to love themselves or feeling lost in themselves just because they haven't really felt into some of their deeper layers. And so sometimes the outer stuff that doesn't really go deep kind of glosses over them. Whereas when she gets to feel from you, especially person to person, and feel your heart and your guts and this incredible masculinity of curiosity in what her experience is, that can be so healing to her. And sometimes, and I know there's a lot with women needing to find themselves, but I truly have found that a woman can't really know herself until someone like you who does this work, who practices presence, who's in this kind of sacred masculine energy, can witness one of her layers that she hasn't seen or known. That that healing for her can happen in an absolute moment, where on her own, sometimes in therapy, she can be working on one layer for years. And there's something so magical about what you provide. And it's something that I really, every time I show up for this work, see over and over and just am blown away by.
Thank you.
I guess my problem is not knowing what questions to ask.
Yeah. So let me do this for homework for you. So when I draw art, it's just like stick figures, right? So if I drew a stick figure of a woman and there was a television in the middle of her soul, like in her stomach and her chest and where her heart and her soul are, if there was a television there and there was a movie, like her favorite movie playing on that television, why does she like that movie? Every one of us, I hope, would know this about your woman and why she likes particular kinds of movies. How does she see herself in that story? Why does she like that particular movie? I mean, maybe she just likes, I don't know, Rambo First Blood or something, and I'm off base, but I don't think that's probably the case. Maybe it is, but and then it's probably the tension between good and evil and something more deep. So if you know about her as a person and what's deeper with her character, that's a place to start. Let's pause there. Cynthia's dropping some gold here today. I love it. So who has a question about what Cynthia may be saying? So Brent came in, Andy's here, Julio's here, Dan. Good to see you guys. Dave, Jeff, looking good, buddy. Yeah, still got the very, very, very good looking. Even I don't know if the very was never. Chris is here too. What's a question from what you've heard so far today, please?
If you need to grow up from her, and yet they don't look at themselves, I'd be asking on what premise do you draw that conclusion, wifey? Give me some reality. Because to a degree, it's a shame projection without definition. So there's it's a form of gaslighting, really.
So for me to understand, just for me, I think Cynthia already gets it, but I'm daft. So you're saying maybe you're growing and she's not, and she's blaming you?
No, I'm just saying when they come out, you need to grow up, Josh or whoever is being talked to, without a qualifier, it becomes a shame projection and a degree of gaslighting. And so if you were to say, on what premise do you draw that conclusion, I don't think you'd get an answer out of them.
Oh, yes. So thank you, Patrick. That's a great point. Many men in this work, right? We are nice guys. We've been overly reliant upon her. So my assumption, my broad sweeping statement was about the average man that comes to this work, including me, when I first came to this work 8 years ago and personal work 15 years ago. It's needing others to validate me. Like if other people don't see me as good and worthy, then I'm in pain and I'm angry if I'm not recognized or validated. And that's not a mature, grounded, masculine perspective necessarily. So often when she's pushing you away, it's an unconscious desire for you to grow up into a man that's self-reliant. Now, to your point, yeah, I don't think she's consciously thinking that. Or to what Cynthia said earlier, she doesn't want to make you feel bad, or she doesn't want to say that directly to you, because she's with a man who's not mature? How has she chosen this man then, if this is this flaw of his? So take me from there, Patrick. How does that then come across?
Oh, my experience of it was when we had a family meeting about what the hell are you doing. She threw a finger and said in quite a loud tone, "You have to change," in front of everybody else. And my response was, "How?" And her response was, "You're not listening."
Yeah.
And at that point, I thought, I'm being played here. This is gaslighting. What the hell is going on? If she, that's fine. I was reasonably secure within myself. I wasn't looking for her affirmation. I was just going, right. I was thinking at when she said it in quite a loud tone, "You have to change." I thought, oh, good. This meeting's going to progress somewhere. So I just politely said, "How? You're not listening." Made no fucking sense at all. So it was gaslighting and it was a deflection. And I just thought, I'm not playing this game.
Yeah,
So,
well said. I agree with you.
And it went downhill from here. So that's why I've put my statement in there. Almost they want you to grow up, but they're not growing up themselves. They're not having a mature relationship. And their whole definition to their friends is, I'm not happy, so Pat has to change. Oh, really? What aren't you happy about? Oh, and off to another quest, off to another deflection. So it is like I said, they've got to grow up. They can't just, I suppose the word is they've got to work on themselves, because otherwise there's no growth. I was accepting that I may have to change, but not knowing how, where's this going? Take me somewhere, but I don't know where. Well, okay, fine. How are you going to know when you get there? You're just going to go around in circles. So that's what I'm saying. I don't know. And you're talking about leadership, and at what point does the leadership mean you call out the bullshit?
Yeah, that's beautifully said. And it does sound like she was gaslighting you and deflecting in that moment. I agree with you. And this is where we have to ask ourselves this question. And I know you have, Patrick. Is something crossing a boundary? Yes. This is where you would call out bullshit, to your point of, I'm not interested in being blamed or shamed here.
Okay. Exactly. And once you understand the work, you go, why are you shaming me? Because you have anxiety and anger and fear in the moment, and you're not addressing that.
Yeah. So if you're asking that question, that's a good. So instead of why are you shaming me, I would say, you seem really upset and I want to know about this. I want to know you deeply. I want to know where you envision your path in life. These types of words. If she refuses to open to you, you can't force her, of course.
Exactly. I didn't say, why are you shaming me? I now understand it was a primal response to protect herself. She didn't have a bloody answer in the moment.
Right.
In a way, without even knowing the work at that point, I'd called her out in the moment, and I think she was on the back foot. So the only answer she had was, "You're not listening." Well, hold a sec. We've called a meeting to listen to you, and you're taking us round in circles. So interesting.
Yeah, and the painful evolution there is, she's not meeting you where you would love to go in relationship of growth and understanding and adventure together and learning about each other. She wasn't willing to step into that vision of relationship that you have in those moments either. And so that wasn't in line with your values. Doesn't mean you wash your hands of her forever necessarily, but in that moment, she didn't want to step towards you, and you can't force her to, of course.
No, well, there's been no forcing. There's been a growing thing to try and understand that at 67, she still doesn't know what she wants.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks, Patrick. So why doesn't she know what she wants, Cynthia?
Aha!
Come on, answer the Freud had this question up until his death. You can't figure out women, so just give us the. Now I'll go over to Julio. Julio, come on in, please. Thank you, Patrick. That's a great point.
Don't deflect, Jeff. I want the answer from Julia. You're protecting me from Cynthia.
Yeah, she'll post the answer to all this on the forum later.
Oh,
just solve it all.
as we say in New Zealand, yeah, right.
Yeah, right. I need to go be in a jacuzzi by myself, Patrick. Like, don't ask me. Julio, come on in. Thanks, Patrick.
Excuse me, sorry. Um, I can relate to what Josh is saying. As far as her telling me things that would hurt my feelings. As far as my situation goes, it wasn't fair for me to put her in that spot because I'd ask her, hey, when can we spend time together, just me and you? And she's like, I don't want to, and we've gone over it, and she's like, I don't want to hurt your feelings, it's not fair for me to put her there because she's not at that point. And that was just, and I had to evaluate myself and be like, why do I want to? And it was mostly just because I was being needy and just trying to get validation. So I had to stop that. And moving forward, I had to accept that and accept her and where she's at. And it's hard work. I mean, it's still hard work. I mean, since then, this happened about 3-4 weeks ago. Just accepting that and just accepting what she's feeling, and it's hard. Like it's not easy. She's kind of opening up a little bit more, and I feel she's not like attacking me as much. And if she does, I've accepted what I contributed to, what kind of messed up our relationship. So if she does bring stuff up that, things that I didn't do that I should have done. I usually have to stand my ground and let her know that I'm working on that stuff and I'm moving forward. But I end it there because that tends to begin an argument, then I get emotional, and then we just start going in circles and start arguing about the past. But I have to accept where she's at. And she's also gone out with her girls and like gone to dinner, and she's gone to the bar and danced, and I've had to accept that too. I can't control what she does, and rather than attacking her like, hey, what about us? We still want to work on this. I've kind of asked questions on how that was. Was that fun? What'd you guys do? And if she doesn't want to open up, then I have to accept that too. But lately, she's been opening up more. And I think my main goal too is trying to evoke good emotions rather than like criticizing or trying to be so needy, but try to evoke those emotions to where it feels good. It's good where I'm listening and asking those questions on, oh, that sounds fun, or just like, how was it? Did you guys have fun? Who'd you see there? What'd you guys eat? And just evoking those good emotions and just kind of asking about her experience since lately has been kind of working, and just it's kind of somewhat stopped the arguing and kind of the criticizing, and kind of the just that tension has kind of been relieved there. And something that, like I said, it's accepting where she's at right now, and also accepting that we didn't get here overnight, and it's not going to change overnight. The passion's not going to be there overnight, or the intimacy, and accepting that because we didn't get here overnight, we're not going to get back to where we were overnight either. And just kind of accepting like, hey, this might be a year, trying to think of the worst or the long term, and kind of setting, I guess, just the timeline for myself of, when I think I'll be able to make a decision either to continue standing for my marriage or not. But just accepting that truth, is helping me kind of just focus on myself. I don't know, it's kind of led like other things. It's become somewhat of a domino effect. So just accepting that, and I've mentioned this before too, but not really focusing on saving our marriage, but just focusing on myself. And it's been working. I don't know what it is. I feel a little bit more at peace. But don't get me wrong, it's hard work still. I still get sad, thinking about our memories and our kids, and but I have to bring myself back and kind of imagine myself just know that it's going to be better in the future, whether we stay together or not. Just trying to remind myself of that. I mean, it's hard work. It's emotionally and mentally it's draining. But like I said, I have to focus on myself. And then I guess this is a KLP win, I would say. It felt good. Last Saturday, I mean, lately I've been dressing up. I got myself a haircut, dressing. And it's just been a focus of like, if I look good, I feel good within myself. And then, I move throughout the day feeling good. And Saturday, I dressed up, I put on my button up shirt, and, I was hanging out with my kids and I was present. And she got out of work that Saturday, and, I went to go drop off the kids, and, she got upset because I was dressed up and I felt good. And
Yep.
and she got upset, you know, she's like, "Why are you looking so good?" You know, and then she's like, "I think you're funny," and she said funny like almost in a kind of like trying to make fun of me just because I'm dressing up in a way. And I was like, "Well, why do you say funny? Like you said that to me like in a very almost rude or kind of mean way." And she's like, "Oh, now that we're like separated, you dressing up and this and that." And I told her, "Hey, look, this, you know, I did get comfortable with our relationship, and you know, I did dress up, you know, for a good while, and I lost who I was for myself. But I'm working on this, and then moving to the future. That's what I want to be." And I kind of just ended it there, you know, and I didn't want to like continue about our past and what I didn't do and whatnot. And she stopped that too, and but she got kind of upset about that like I'm dressing up now and that I got a haircut, and it wasn't to like try to show off, but it was just for me to feel good, you know, moving forward. And it seemed like
You
she
are
noticed.
very good looking.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Thank you.
you need to put that behind your name like Jeff did. Yeah. Yeah, Julio, thank you, buddy. For sake of time, I'm press pausing you. Yeah, absolutely. You're going to be better through this work no matter what. It's finding who you are, your values, your boundaries, the man you want to be, the journey for you. That's what the painful gift of this is. And overarchingly, to close this out, one reason that a woman wants space is if she feels like she's underwater, like her head is getting dunked underwater from the relationship. She's either feeling smothered within her own pains or her lack of getting what she dreams that she wants. So part of that space is so that she can bring her head above water and breathe. And she's going to take things very differently if she feels her head is above water than if she's, quote, still drowning. Like one man may be able to say a particular question and she opens and talks about it. Another man may try the same thing and she lashes out at him for even asking how was the sushi dinner? What is it about a woman who, and again, briefly here. So what is it? Why is there a difference between if she feels underwater and she says to Patrick, you need to change, you're not listening, and it doesn't make any fucking sense at all, versus when she does want the relationship or when her head comes above water? What is the fundamental shift, would you say, within her that happens there? Why is it so different?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I would say the underwater state is very much a conglomeration of a lot of different really intense emotions that she's feeling. And so her self-protection mode is really, really high, and her level of trust is really, really low, and her hope is probably smashed, and her self-defeating stories are at an all-time high. Whereas when her head's above water, there's been some resolution and some movement in some of those conflicting emotions, and there is a glimmer of hope there, and there is a little bit of she can feel some trust and share some things and have there be some freedom and relief. And I think those two are so important in terms of where boundaries and values lie, of when a woman really gets to receive your healing energy and when she doesn't. Because if she can't really open at all, is she going to learn from your healing? Probably not. She's probably going to have to just really sense the incredible masculinity you are, and then actually have to kind of turn toward you to even be able to receive what you have to offer. And it pains me, like my heart just hurts when women can't even move to do that, because I know the gift on the other side. And I think it's really good for them to learn that there's a boundary there, that they don't just get to pull everyone underwater with them just because that's their current experience.
Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate you guys being here. GreatMenMoveMountains.com. If you're not yet in our free Facebook group, GreatMenMoveMountains.com/Facebook. Love you guys being here.